All right, so if you're going to tell a story, you have to have a grasp of the facts. Where's that going to come from? Well, think about this. And how many people flew to get to this meeting? All right, the vast majority of you did. For those who didn't, think of another business flight that you're on. You're rolling out on the tarmac in some city, and the flight attendant says, okay, welcome to Washington, D.C., or Baltimore, or Cleveland, or San Francisco, wherever it may be. You can turn on your mobile devices. And if you're like me, you're walking down the aisle with your mobile device, and you're checking your voicemails, your text messages, and emails, and maybe the stock market, and you go, did I have a code? Was I traveling with someone? And it's because you're distracted, right? We're easily distracted. We're terrible at multitasking. And we carry with us probably the best, most distracting device that's ever been created, a smartphone. It's just endlessly fascinating. And we're distracted. We're not at our best. Now, consider the possibility that you're in a different kind of aircraft and you're exiting in a different way. Who here is going to be thinking about voicemail and text messages and email and the stock market as you're doing this? I hope not, right? Now, why is that? It's because you've thought, consciously or subconsciously, about the situation that you're in the moment, and you have decided to undivide your attention. You are completely focused. Now, how can we apply this? All right, one last show of hands here. By a show of hands, how many people would consider themselves to be good listeners? Come on. I know you sense a trap, that's why you're not doing it. Right? So I'm gonna say it's about half. I will tell you that the people who sensed the trap were correct because the data does not support that contention. Research that was published in Psychology Today says that actually about 10% of humans are what we would call good listeners. And that's because there are two parts to listening. The first is the outside part, and the second is the inside part. The outside part is you have to be quiet. You have to shut up long enough to let somebody else talk. And we all know people who interrupt, who talk over, and complete our sentences for us. There's no excuse for that, but it happens. So you got to stop that. But the other thing is what's going on inside our heads as we're in a conversation. If someone else is speaking, what are we doing? We're listening, right? Actually, in most cases, we're not listening. We're preparing to speak. We know we can't multitask well, so we're either preparing to speak or listening. We tend to be preparing to speak because we don't want to be caught with nothing to say. So, in this instance, the question to ask is, are you listening? And it's tempting to ask somebody else that, and you'll get around to that. But the first thing you have to do is ask yourself, are you listening? You may have someone who's in a room who's hoping you'll listen, maybe praying that you will finally listen. And when you find yourself listening, the dead giveaway that you're actually not listening is when you're preparing to solve that person's problem. We hire the best people in the world, right? The smartest, most experienced people in the world. And if we find ourselves solving their problems when all they want us to do is listen, you're not helping anybody out. So the question here is, are you listening? Now, as you listen, you're going to hear all kinds of crazy things. Some will be great things. Wow, that's fantastic. I didn't know that was moving that well in the organization. But we're also going to hear things like, oh, I didn't realize that was still a problem. It's like, oh, that's not working? I thought that was taken care of. And in that case, what you're going to have to learn to do is to stifle a scream. Now, this is LeBron James from last year's NBA playoffs, and he's clearly disappointed with the actions taken by a colleague here. Like, come on, right? And stifling a scream is really just an emotional way of saying what you have to do is remain composed. You want to be a composed team member or leader.